Hello, fine crypto people, and welcome to another episode of Adventures on NewDex. So I hope everybody had an amazing holidays. I hope you guys had some fun. Of course, we're coming into the new year, so make good decisions, be a good adult, do the right things, don't drink and drive. I digress. Normally, when I'm doing like these adventures in NewDex, I kind of like to find something that's like obscure and weird or just something I haven't seen before and talk about that. Today is going to be a little bit different. Today's going to be different in the sense that I think everybody knows the token that I'm going to talk about today. Now, if you were in the Telegram group for Trybe, I did have like a little poll where I asked everybody, what was the next token that you wanted me to do on Adventures of NewDex? And we did a little poll. So if you're not in that Telegram group, make sure you join us because there's going to be a bunch more polls going on in the future where you're going to be able to vote and just kind of talk about the next review that you want to see me do. Today, we're going to do RIDL because that was kind of the #1 most requested token. Let me start off, first of all, by saying I'm a huge Scatter fan. I've been using Scatter a lot ever since day one. The most recent updates, including the most recent version 10, have been just easier and easier to use. So I'm a huge fan of NS James. I'm a huge fan of Scatter. And I'm a huge fan of what he's doing. So that being said, of course, RIDL is kind of the token for Scatter. I had the opportunity to actually interview NS James, would have been quite a few months ago, when he actually mentioned that RIDL is not supposed to be a speculative asset. So of course I do these with kind of like from an investor's perspective. And I really was interested in doing this one because I think a lot of people have the wrong idea about RIDL. So in order to understand what exactly RIDL is and why I might not necessarily think that it was a good investment asset, so to speak. Let's break it all down. Before we go there, I'm going to give you kind of the traditional warning. Not investment advice, not an investment professional. In fact, I'm probably even a terrible investor. But that being said, I like to do these videos because I'm kind of good at gathering all the information, dissecting it, and then feeding it to you guys. And of course, if you guys have anything you want to say, if you have any comments, please leave them below. Let me know which token you want to see me do next, if something pops up on NewDex, and we'll do it. So now that kind of the quintessential forewarning, not a professional, this is just for fun, is out of the way, let's go and explore a little bit about RIDL. Okay, so here we are on the same place I like to start a lot of these videos, which is, of course, NewDex. It's called Adventures in NewDex. So we can see that RIDL kind of started trading on the 21st. It is now just about the 31st and came up, spiked as high as about 0.0361 EOS. And of course, it's come down a little bit and it's settled around 0.163. So nothing too spectacular from kind of the trading volume or anything like that. It's a pretty traditional coin. I don't really see anything that looks, neither good nor bad. It's kind of an average start. Got bought up, it looks like, all the way up to 0.00663 and kind of came down, and now it's sitting around that same price that we were talking about earlier. So before anybody gets carried away, I want to let you know that I freaking love NS James. I love Scatter. I love all the contributions. This is a guy who worked his ass off just to be able to bring us one of our first wallets and one of our first way to safely interact with dApps. So I totally support everything that he's doing. But as I said, in a conversation that we did have, he did say it is not a speculative asset. And I'm going to kind of talk about why he would have said that and why I tend to agree with him. If we want to look at the maximum supply, it is 1.5 billion. Circulating supply sits at about half of that, which is 750 million. The website is, of course, get-scatter.com. I'm going to put that down below in the comments. Okay, so in order to understand what Scatter is, of course, you have to understand what the acronym is, and the acronym is Reputation and Identity Layer. It's really simple. Now, again, I love NS James. My underlying kind of feelings are that you don't want to use RIDL as a speculative asset, but anybody who uses Scatter is going to want some RIDL. And the way that I kind of suggest that you pick it up, that's really going to have the most impact, is that you actually go to this website and you buy it directly from the donation spot itself, really. If you're going to pick up some RIDL, in my personal opinion, the best way to do it is to grab some, and it's more of a donation for RIDL, and we're going to kind of explain why that is. You're not actually buying a piece of Scatter or buying an investment in Scatter. You're buying a part of this reputation and identity layer. So anybody who uses Scatter, of course, I do recommend that you grab some, but I don't recommend you buy it off the exchange. You want to get it right here, and you can do that simply by clicking Donate with Scatter. So before we actually start talking about whether or not Scatter is a good investment or not, we should probably understand what exactly it is, and that'll kind of build my point that it's not necessarily an investment, but everybody is going to need some. My preferred way for everybody to grab some to have the most effect on some of the things that NS James is doing, because he's doing some really cool stuff and he's really helped us out. He's been a good member of the community. Scatter's getting easier, it's getting better, it's getting more approachable, but the true beauty of Scatter is actually in this RIDL token. And in order to understand what RIDL token is, let's take a look at the white paper. So I'm going to kind of give you guys the Coles notes because we're not going to go over the entire white paper, but what RIDL basically is a system that's going to kind of allow you to assign reputation. And that's just not only to other people, but to applications. Like imagine if you went to go log into an application with Scatter, and then you were just given this rating of whatever application you're going to use, which is based on everybody else's previous input. That's essentially what RIDL does. And it's not necessarily strictly on decentralized dApps. It's on multi-blockchain layer. And of course, I think that we're going to see NS James incorporate some more blockchains in. It's just a reputational identity layer that's built in order to be able to let you know whether or not the stuff you're interacting with has been good for other people, whether or not it works. And it's kind of a really interesting system. So RIDL kind of works like this. You're assigned a unique name, which can't be impersonated by any other application, which is integrated directly into Scatter. So you go and you choose your name. Some people have already done that. I did that originally. And then once you've got that unique name, users can give and get reputation from other identities. So you're going to give reputation, or you're going to get kind of a reputation score from domains, blockchain addresses, public keys, accounts, decentralized or centralized applications, other users, or any other type of entry known by a unique identifier or a name. The reason that I really like RIDL is that it's going to let people who maybe are new to blockchain, or just people in general, know how other people have interacted with whatever it might be. Maybe it's another person, maybe it's an exchange, maybe it's a dApp, and it's going to give you an immediate reputational score, so you kind of know what you're getting yourself into based on other people's scores. Last point is it allows users to gain tokens by making the internet and blockchain safer. So in order to make sure that other people aren't squatting on names for RIDL, there's kind of a $25 a year registration fee. If you were lucky enough to pre-reserve your RIDL identifier, it won't expire for 100 years, and that'll come loaded with 100 RIDL tokens. It says that once a unique identifier is registered with RIDL, the owner gains the benefit of using the reputational system, as well as RIDL Defender, which is kind of a really cool integration into Scatter, which is going to provide decentralized protection against scams and malicious entities to Scatter. So the cool thing is about it is that you only really need one RIDL-enabled identity within Scatter for the Defender to work and be able to kind of give you warnings about the various dApps, programs, whatever it might be that you're interacting with. So what it really is like this decentralized reputational mechanism. It says here in the white paper that an entity's reputation can't really be centralized, so it can't be manipulated by like a single owner or tampered with no public record of kind of the wrongdoing. And on top of that, reputation isn't something that like a singular entity builds up against another singular entity, which means that one person can't just give away a bunch of reputational points to another entity. It can only be defined by the majority, not the minority, as it says. And RIDL makes the reputation records public and immutable by recording them to a public blockchain, and it takes care of some of the manipulations by forcing participants in the system to come together to affect an entity's reputation instead of having two different entities kind of giving each other reputation and just gaming the system. So if they were to do that, it says in the white paper that they would lose all their tokens, and it would be plainly visible to other people that this has kind of occurred, and other people would probably be more inclined to vote them as less reputable because of that. So it also talks about the way that it's not just like a single reputational layer that RIDL is going to be for. Like you're going to be able to vote and give somebody reputation based on what they call fragments, which are going to be like different things that are kind of within the system. So for example, you might be reputing somebody or like a dApp or something like that based on like trust, user experience, privacy, fees, whatever it might be. And every time you go to do a transaction, or somebody new goes to do a transaction with this particular identifier, they're going to know what other people have said about that particular reputation. Now, there are some kind of other interesting things like reputation mining, where if you go and you're the first one to start reputing a certain entity, that you get a certain percentage of the tokens that other people use to repute that entity as well. And of course, in order to be able to encourage everybody to constantly repute, there is like this monthly airdrop where 1% of the pool actually gets distributed to everybody who's been reputing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that this stuff is for use. It's for, NS James doesn't want people like buying this stuff and hoarding it, because he wants to see it used. He wants to see it affordable, and he wants to see people like using it and actually making use of this like decentralized identifier that tells you if the crap you're dealing with is sketchy. And quite frankly, I think that that's brilliant. So of course, once you actually assign a certain amount of reputation to somebody, it gets converted to rep points, which is kind of this immutable point system. There is, of course, a little bit of a decay. So you do have to continue to repute and getting reputed in order to be able to work within the confines of the system and in order to maintain your certain reputation level. Once again, of course, when you have one of your identities that is like a RIDL enabled identity, you're going to be able to use RIDL Defender, which is going to always pop up and it's going to tell you about what other people think about certain applications and just kind of give you a previous warning, whether or not whatever you're dealing with, whether it's a game, whether it's like a web address, whether it's a decentralized application, it's going to let you know kind of what other people think of it and what their experiences have been. Now, this is really interesting too, guys, and it's very, very clear. So I'm going to read it because clearly it's an important part of the white paper. RIDL tokens are utility token used slowly for defining reputations within the RIDL system and are akin to in-app scoring systems. They're not a currency. Note, they're not a currency and do not provide any shares in any company or imply any investment or hold any monetary value. So I think that that's pretty important in itself. It's clearly, plainly stating that this is not intended to be used as a speculative asset. It's not a currency. It's something that's there. It's something that is going to be incorporated into Scatter that NS James wants people to use because it's really another layer of safety when you're dealing with applications that you just don't know about, or maybe like guys who are coming to EOS or girls who are coming to EOS, whatever it might be, are just like seeing this stuff for the first time, and all of a sudden you go to use the system and you have kind of like a leg up, like you know what other people's experiences have been like with whatever you're interacting with through Scatter. Now, once again, I'm not saying that I don't want to see NS James do really, really well because I know that he's going to and I know that he will, but the man himself has said, do not buy this stuff as a speculative asset. And the reason why he said that is because if people go out and they buy a bunch of RIDL and they hoard it, and we've got like supply and demand, of course, there's a large possibility that the price of these are going to go up, and then all of a sudden maybe people who are in more disadvantaged countries aren't going to have access to it due to the price, and it just ruins the whole point of what he's trying to accomplish here. You know, like RIDL is supposed to be like your friendly neighborhood watchman that every time you're about to do something stupid on Scatter pops up and says, do not interact with this thing. You know, so many people have assigned it so many points, they think it's terrible, or like maybe, hey, this thing is safe. There's been a lot of people interact with it. Like this is a security net. It's a security layer. And that's the way it was intended to be built. That's the way it was intended to be used. So I think that we're going to see NS James do some really cool stuff in the future. But I think that when he's ready to do something that maybe has a token for profit, I think that he'll make it a completely separate token economics. Like he'll build a new token. The guy's a smart dude. He can just put out a token and that will be for something else. Because I know that the guy's worked really, really hard. He hasn't been supported by anybody really other than himself. This is like his love. This is what he's trying to do. I also know that he's a really talented programmer. He's a really important part of the community. And if he decides in the future like that he wants to build a game or that he wants to build whatever he's going to build, he's going to make a separate token economy for that. I have no doubt that we'll see RIDL mature, evolve, and I really hope that it becomes the kind of thing that like everybody uses because of course he's expanded to Ethereum, Tron. I see him bringing on new blockchains in the future, but there doesn't appear to be much of an advantage to buying RIDL and just holding it for the sake of holding. Now, that being said, he has funded a lot of the development of Scatter through the development fund. And I think that people have kind of gotten mixed up, and I've actually kind of seen them get a little frustrated when people buy this stuff with the intention of just like holding it to keep it. However, if you use Scatter, if this sounds like it's a good system, like it's something that you want to get into, I do suggest that you support the development of Scatter. But to support the development of Scatter, you're not buying it off of NewDex. You're going to go straight to his website, which I'm going to show you in a couple of seconds, and you're going to spend some EOS there because I think that what he's doing is really important. The last two releases of Scatter in terms of just like usability have come leaps and bounds. Like I can't even imagine where he's going to be in a year with Scatter and some of the things that he's going to do and some of the new projects that he's going to bring on. But I strongly feel like this RIDL token economy won't be a part of that. So in my opinion, everybody should have some RIDL. But if you're buying it just to hoard it, hoping that it moons, you're actually kind of fighting against a system that he's trying to create. And it's just kind of a jackass move, if you ask me. So if you want to support NS James and support the development of Scatter, which I really encourage everybody to do, I think that everybody should go buy some RIDL. You're going to need it anyway. Don't buy a ton. Just buy enough that you're going to be able to use, because in order to give reputation to other people, you're actually going to need some tokens, but don't buy a ton of tokens. Just buy some, send the man some EOS so he can continue his great work, but just don't buy it in the sense that like you want to hoard it all, because really at the end of the day, that's just counterintuitive to what he's trying to do. But that being said, there is a 2-year donation to the Development Foundation that's going on at Get Scatter. I'm going to show you that, where you can actually purchase some RIDL tokens. But again, you're purchasing tokens to be able to use them. If you're purchasing them to be able to speculate on them, then you're not doing anybody any justice. So if you do want to do that, you want to go and support NS James and grab yourself some RIDL, because you'll need some, because you're going to be using it to repute and to build reputations. And of course, you know, to be reputed back or whatever it might be, then I suggest that you go to get-scatter /RIDL, and it is a donation. Like, that's what you're doing here. You're donating to the fund, but I don't know of anything that is a better fund to be able to donate to in terms of just community reach and some of the things that he's doing. So I click there, I end up on this page. So you can come here once you've clicked on that, view cycles. It kind of shows you how many EOS was contributed, of course. And the cycles, I believe, are 12 hours, which is really cool. So go and spend some EOS, get yourself some RIDL, but don't buy it off the exchange. Don't try to hoard it. But definitely do go and snatch some. And the truth of the matter is that there's like it's more of a donation kind of going on over the course of the next 2 years, where they're going to release 170,000 tokens every 12 hours. And of course, that kind of works in the same way as the EOS crowd sale, except it's capped at a maximum of 2,000 EOS per cycle, which leaves the token price around 0.11 EOS per token, which roughly equates to kind of 1 EOS for 100 RIDL tokens, which is double what new users get when they register new identities, which is 50 RIDL. And I quote this part right here: "This should keep the price consistent over the first 2 years in order to let both the RIDL network and Scatter itself grow without hindering the network by high prices for reputes or throwing too much money at Scatter all at once." So there you have it from the man himself. Of course, you've got that ongoing, it's not a token sale, it's more of like a donation box, which is, you can go out and you can go out and you can drop a big green line on NewDex, buy it all the way up to like 1 EOS for 1 RIDL. But that kind of donation-based thing is going to keep the price down. So that's by and large why I'm saying that I would invest in just about anything that damn man does, because he's smart. I know he's going to come out with some stuff in the future. I'm sure it's going to be crazy. I'm sure it's going to have its own token economy, and I'm sure it's going to take over the world, but that's not what he wants for this thing. That's not what this thing is all about. And I really have seen some people who are like talking about like, I'm going to buy all the RIDL. That is a bad idea, man. Like, it's, in my opinion, it's a bad idea. It's not just a bad idea from a speculative side where you've got the ongoing donation going, but also just from kind of like an ethical, moral view. Like, the guy's done a lot. It's a reputational layer. It's not a currency. It's not a speculative asset. It's not going to moon. That's kind of my thoughts on RIDL. That's my thoughts on the listing on NewDex. I don't even know why it got listed. Like, that's crazy. To be honest with you, I was really surprised to see it listed. And in the future, RIDL is going to be a way to keep ourselves safe, maybe to keep your girlfriend safe, to keep your kids safe, or maybe to even keep yourself safe, because God knows, like, there's some sketchy stuff out there. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my adventures on NewDex for RIDL. It's awesome. It's going to change the way that we kind of do business with Scatter. But at the same time, this is kind of like it's a speculative kind of series that I do. And I really recommend that you don't go out and use it as a speculative asset, because you're probably going to get wrecked. That's my thing on Scatter. I do recommend that you go and you pick some up. I'm going to make sure that I leave the link below, but go and buy it from the site. Know that it is a donation. Know that you're helping kind of one of the pioneer EOS IO tools in order to be able to go out and explore the ecosystem. Like, you're doing a good thing, but make sure you buy it off the website. You know what I mean? Don't go out and necessarily buy it off of NewDex. Go support the man who's making all this stuff happen. I'll list the link below. And I want to know what you guys think. Of course, I'm going to be holding kind of ongoing polls inside of the Trybe Telegram group, talking about which token did you want me to do next. I want to know what your opinion is. Am I right? Am I wrong? Did I miss something? Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you want to do next. Drop us a subscribe. Drop us a like. And I hope everybody just has a good night, has a good new year. I think 2019 is going to be exciting. Hold on tight. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.